The Data Cloud Diaries, creating a calculated insight from SQL. Welcome back to the Data Cloud Diaries. Today, we're going to do a calculated insight from a SQL statement. This is the ability to have a complex SQL statement that runs after there's a load of your DMO, your data model objects, and these calculations can be available for actionable insights. So we're gonna build it not through the builder, but through the actual SQL statement. So here's calculated insights. We're gonna create new, and we're gonna pull it off of my default data space. We're gonna build it with SQL, actually building it up. We're gonna call this demo 1. And what we're gonna be doing is it's giving you an example of a SQL statement, selecting attributes and aggregations from where group by. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be pulling in the data we did through our process. So we're going to go and highlight, and in fact, we'll start fresh. Select and from, and we need a group by. So these are the basic elements. So from, we're going to go and choose this table, and then we're going to select a field. We're going to be pulling on the aircraft registration. So now what we've done is we have the field for the aircraft registration. We need to give it a field. So we're going to go as, and we'll give it its same name, aircraft reg. Now what we're going to do is we're going to count how many takeoff and landing. These are aircrafts and on this data, we have takeoff and landings out of the Phoenix airport. What we're going to do is we're going to add a count, and we could do a count star as count C from this traffic. Now we're going to group it, and we're going to group it by the aircraft reg. So what this is doing is we are going to pull all the registration numbers. We're going to count how many times there's a takeoff or a landing, and we're going to check the syntax. So we have valid syntax here. So this is a simple count, takeoff and landings. Now what we're going to do, this is our demo 1, we're going to activate. We're not going to schedule this. We could be scheduling this to fire off periodically. We're going to enable. And now we have this as a calculated insight, demo 1. We can take a look at the expression. Now, one thing I like to do is to test the expression. And what I'm going to be doing is switching to Postman. Now over here, we're going to have our Postman. Now this, I've already authenticated. I've authenticated on the Salesforce org, and then I've exchanged my authentication code. And now I'm hitting the API v2 query. My authenticate bearer token is in there, and I'm going to go take a look at my body. And this is where I can paste my SQL inside this and hit send. And now you're seeing what I've gotten is I can validate that I'm getting takeoff and landings per flight registration number here. So this is showing me valid data that's coming across through Postman. So this is a mechanism where I can be validating my SQL and trying different SQL statements. A key part of this is the fact that you need to have the different two key elements is you're measuring the aircraft reg, and then you're going to have some form of a count, some form of a numeric count. So we have in our expression, we have a measure and a count. Now what we're going to do is we're going to publish this now. And this is going to allow us to trigger the run. So this has started a new execution of the calculated insight. It's a SQL statement. It has at least one of these identifying elements, and it's got a numeric. We're doing a group by, and this will tell us how many takeoff and landings there are per aircraft reg. Now we see that the status is pending. and it's just kicked it off for a run. And now it's triggered as processing. This shows us that it's processing. And now it's success. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this Calculated Insight. And where you can go for that is you can go to the Data Explorer. You can pick your data space. And there's an entry here for Calculated Insight. And I'm going to pick the demo one that we just created. And now what we're seeing is we're seeing different aircraft registrations and we're seeing the counts. So this is giving us the counts of the takeoffs and landings. So this way we can be running our SQL statement as a Calculated Insight. Now in Postman, we were able to run a query using the body, and we could be customizing the SQL statement to simulate the results of the Calculated Insight. Now there's also an API call where I can go API v1 Insight Calculated Insights, and then what I grab is the API name, and I come back here and I can execute. And now what I am getting right here is the data from the Calculated Insight. So this is powerful because it allows me to be able to both test the SQL for the Calculated Insight and to be able to test the data in the final Calculated Insight. And you can see we've got the dimensions and we've got the measures all ready to go. So this shows you how you can build your own SQL-based Calculated Insight. Now, here's a modification where I was grouping by a traffic type, which tells me whether it's an arrival or a departure. And so this way I have a group by the aircraft, group by the traffic type, arrival, departure, and the count. And so now when I test this out, I can see a plane arriving, plane arriving and departing, so I can count the arrivals and the departures separate from each other. So what I can do is then take this SQL and go back over to my Calculated Insight, paste it in, check the syntax, and make sure, see if I'm getting the syntax right. And notice what's happening here is this one is doing an as. I need to name each type. So here I do an as and give it a column name. Get rid of that extra comma. And now check syntax. And if this is there. So what we can be doing is coming back here is we can be looking at our SQL. We can be altering it and trying different SQLs. And then making sure you're getting your data and then switch back and create the Calculated Insights. We'll stop here and show more advanced Calculated Insights in subsequent videos. So that was just the most basic of a SQL. Taking a set of data, grouping by one dimension, the aircraft type, counting, and then we looked at going deeper and deeper into more additional calculations. And then you saw how we took the insight, we published it, and we could view it through the Explorer, and how we could be testing and running it through Postman. On future sessions, we'll dive deeper into more complex Calculated Insights. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining Seeing the Insights. Join me again, same bad time, same bad channel. Subscribe to www.SteveTechArc and YouTube SteveTechArc. Thank you very much.